The wind screamed like a dying animal outside the small metal hut. Snow hit the walls so hard it sounded like rocks being thrown by angry giants. Inside, sat near his heating unit and watched the temperature screen. It showed -73 degrees outside. Even for this frozen planet, it was a bad night. Had been alone on Seven for 3 months now. His job was simple. He watched the weather, recorded the data, and sent reports back to the human colony on the nearby moon. It was boring work. It was lonely work, but that was exactly why he had asked for it. He poured himself a cup of hot tea and listened to the storm. The walls of his hut were thick, built to survive the worst this planet could offer. He had food for 6 more months. He had power from the underground generator. He had books, music, and his own thoughts for company. It was enough. It had to be enough. The alarm on his computer suddenly made a loud sound, spilled some tea on his hand as he jumped up. He ran to the screen and looked at the data. Something had fallen from the sky about 2 kilometers north of his position. The computer said it was small, maybe the size of a vehicle. It was not a meteor. The shape was wrong. It looked like a ship, an escape pod. Stood very still for a moment. His mind was racing. No human ships were supposed to be in this area. The only scheduled supply drop was 2 weeks away. This was something else, someone else. He looked at the storm outside. Going out there was dangerous. The cold could kill a man in minutes if his suit failed. The wind could knock him down and bury him in snow before he could stand up again. But if someone was in that pod, they would die for certain without help. No escape pod could keep a person warm in this weather for long. Did not think about it for more than a few seconds. He was already putting on his thermal suit. The walk to the crash site took him almost an hour. The wind pushed against him like a solid wall. Snow filled the air so thick he could barely see his own hands. His suit kept him warm, but he could feel the cold trying to get in, pressing against every part of him. His face was exposed below the eyes because his mask had broken last week. The cold burned his skin like fire, but he kept walking. He found the pod half buried in it was not a human design. The metal was smooth and pale blue, with strange writing on the side that he did not recognize. Smoke was coming from a crack in the hull, cleared away the snow and found the door. It took him several minutes to figure out how to open it. When he finally did, cold air rushed out, and he knew the heating system had failed. Inside the pod, he found her. She was not human. That was the first thing he noticed. Her skin was pale blue, almost the same color as the pod. Her body was thin and long, with arms and legs that seemed too delicate for a creature her size. Her face was beautiful in a strange way, with large dark eyes and no nose that he could see, just 2 small holes above her small mouth. Her hair was white like snow and very long. She was unconscious and very cold. Did not waste time thinking about what she was or where she came from. He picked her up carefully. She weighed almost nothing, like a child made of paper. He wrapped her in his emergency blanket and began the long walk back to his hut. The storm seemed to grow angrier as he walked. The wind screamed louder. The snow fell harder, held the alien woman against his chest and pushed forward step by step. His face was numb from the cold. His arms were getting tired, but he did not stop. He could feel her body shaking against his, and he knew that meant she was still alive. When he finally reached his hut, he was so tired he could barely open the door. He carried her inside and laid her on his bed. Then he turned up the heat as high as it would go and began to check her injuries. She had a cut on her head and some burns on her arms, probably from the crash. He cleaned the wounds and wrapped them with bandages. He covered her with every blanket he had. Then he sat down in his chair and waited. She woke up 3 hours later, was drinking tea and reading a book when he heard her move. He looked up and saw her eyes open. Those large, dark eyes looked around the room slowly, taking in the metal walls, the heating unit, the strange equipment. Then those eyes found him. The scream that came out of her mouth was the most terrible sound he'd ever heard. It was high and sharp, full of pure terror. She threw herself backward off the bed and hit the wall. Her whole body was shaking. Her hands were raised in front of her face like she was trying to protect herself from an attack. Stood up quickly, and that made it worse. She screamed again and tried to push herself through the wall. Tears were running down her blue face. She was saying words in a language he did not understand, but the meaning was clear. She was begging, pleading. Stopped moving. He raised his hands slowly to show they were empty. He made his voice as soft as he could. "It's okay," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe here. The storm. You crashed. I brought you here to help you." She did not understand his words, but something in his tone made her stop screaming. She was still pressed against the wall, still shaking, still crying. But she was listening now. Her eyes were fixed on him like he was the most dangerous thing she had ever seen. Slowly sat back down in his chair. He put his hands on his knees where she could see them. He tried to make himself look small and harmless. It was strange. He had never thought of himself as scary before. He was just a man, just a weather researcher who wanted to be alone with his grief. But this alien woman was looking at him like he was a monster from her worst nightmares. "I found you in the snow," he said softly. "Your pod crashed. You would have died out there. I just wanted to help." She watched him for a long time. Her breathing was fast and shallow. Her hands were still shaking. Then she spoke, and her voice was barely louder than a whisper. The words were in Galactic Common, the trade language that most species used, knew it well enough to understand. "Please," she whispered, "please, don't eat me." Felt his heart break a little at those words. He did not know why she was so afraid of him. He did not know what stories her people told about humans, but he knew that he would spend however long it took to show her that she was wrong about him. The storm raged on outside. Inside the small hut, a man and an alien stared at each other across a gap that felt wider than the space between stars. Did not move from his chair for a very long time. The alien woman stayed pressed against the wall, watching him with those huge dark eyes. Outside, the storm continued to howl and scream. Inside, there was only silence and fear. "I'm not going to eat you," said finally. He spoke slowly and clearly. "Humans don't eat people. We don't eat any thinking creatures. I promise you are safe." The woman's eyes grew even wider. "You are human?" she asked. Her voice was shaking. "You are really human?" "Yes, my name is. I'm a weather researcher. I live here alone." She made a small sound, almost like a laugh but filled with fear instead of joy. "Alone? A human lives alone on a death world. Of course you do." Did not understand what she meant. "What is your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated for a long moment, then she answered, "I am of the people." Repeated, "That's a nice name. Can you tell me what happened? Why did your ship crash?" His body relaxed just a tiny bit. She was still pressed against the wall, but her hands had dropped from her face. She seemed surprised that he was asking her questions instead of attacking her. "I was on a diplomatic vessel," she said. "We were traveling through this system when raiders attacked us. They wanted our cargo. I took an escape pod when the ship began to break apart. I did not know this planet was inhabited. I did not know there was a human here." "There's only me," said. "Just me and the weather machines, no one else." Shook her head slowly. "One human is enough. One human is too many." Felt confused and a little hurt by her words. "Why are you so afraid of me? I saved your life. I carried you through the storm. I treated your wounds. Why do you think I would hurt you?" Stared at him like he had asked a stupid question. "Because you are human," she said. "Your species comes from a death world, a planet so dangerous that it kills most creatures before they can grow old. Your people evolved to survive there. You are predators, the most dangerous predators in the galaxy." Was quiet for a moment. He had heard these things before, back when he was training for his job. Other species called Earth a death world because of its harsh conditions. Extreme temperatures, powerful storms, dangerous animals, diseases that could kill in days. Humans had evolved to survive all of it, but he had never thought about what that meant to other species. "We're not monsters," he said softly. "You carried me through that storm," said. "I saw your face. You had no mask. The cold should have killed you. It would have killed any in seconds, but you walked through it like it was nothing." Touched his face. The skin was red and raw from the cold, but it would heal in a few days. "It was not nothing. It hurt. It was hard. But I couldn't leave you out there to die." "Why?" asked. "Why would you risk your life for a stranger, for an alien you had never met?" It was a good question. Thought about it carefully before answering. Because that's what humans do. When we see someone in trouble, we try to help. It's how we are. We can't just walk away. Made that strange laughing sound again. "The galaxy says humans are killers, conquerors, dangerous beyond measure, and you say you risk your lives to save strangers." "We can be dangerous," admitted. "When someone threatens the people we care about, we can be very dangerous. But most of us just want to live peaceful lives. We want to help others. We want to connect with other beings." He stood up slowly and immediately tensed, stopped and raised his hands again. "I'm going to make some food," he said. "You must be hungry. I'll make enough for both of us. You can stay there if you want. I won't come any closer." He walked to the small kitchen area and began to prepare a simple meal. He could feel his eyes on his back the entire time. He moved slowly and carefully, trying not to make any sudden movements that might scare her. As he cooked, he talked. He told her about his job, about the weather patterns on this planet, about the colony on the moon where he got his supplies. He talked about Earth, about the cities and the forests and the oceans. He talked about how humans love to explore, to discover new places and meet new peoples. When the food was ready, he put some on a plate and set it on the floor halfway between them. Then he took his own plate and sat back down in his chair. "It's not poison," he said. "It's just rice and vegetables. If you're worried, you can watch me eat first." Watched him eat for several minutes. Then slowly, carefully, she moved away from the wall. She crossed the room like a small animal approaching a trap, ready to run at any moment. She picked up the plate and retreated back to the wall. She ate quickly, like she expected him to take the food away. "Good?" asked. Nodded slowly. "Good, thank you." It was the first time she had thanked him. Smiled and flinched at the sight of his teeth. "Sorry," he said, closing his mouth. "I forgot. Showing teeth is friendly for humans, but I know it can look scary to others." Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Why do your hands shake?" Looked down at his hands. She was right. They were trembling slightly. "I was worried about you," he said. "When you were unconscious, I didn't know if you would wake up. I didn't know if I had done enough to save you. My hands shake when I'm worried." "You were worried about me." Sounded like she couldn't believe it. A human was worried about a... "Of course I was worried. You were hurt. You might have died." Set down her empty plate. She looked at with something new in her eyes. Not fear exactly, though the fear was still there. Something else. Confusion, maybe, or curiosity. "My people tell stories about humans," she said. "They say you are the monsters of the galaxy. They say you feel no fear, no pain, no mercy. They say you hunt other species for sport. They say you eat the flesh of your enemies." "Those are just stories," said. "Bad stories, wrong stories." "But you come from a death world. You survive things that would kill any other species. How can you be anything but monsters?" Thought about this for a long time. The storm outside was starting to calm down. The wind was not screaming as loud as before. In the quiet, he tried to find the right words. "Maybe we are strong because our world was hard," he said finally. "Maybe we learned to survive things that would kill others, but that doesn't make us monsters, it makes us survivors. And survivors know how important it is to help each other. On Earth, alone means dead. So we learn to work together. We learn to care for strangers. We learn that every life has value." Was quiet for a very long time after that. The fear in her eyes was slowly being replaced by something else. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of it, the first small seed of understanding. She said quietly, Why do you live alone here? If humans need others so much, why are you by yourself?" The question hit like a punch to the chest. He looked down at his shaking hands and took a deep breath. "Because I lost someone," he said. "Someone I loved very much, and I thought being alone would hurt less than being with others who reminded me of her." Did not ask any more questions that night, but when looked up he saw something in her eyes that he had not expected to see. Not fear, not confusion. Sympathy. 3 days passed and the storm did not stop. It grew weaker sometimes, then stronger again, but it never ended. And were trapped together in the small hut, with nothing to do but talk and wait. On the first day, stayed near the wall. She slept sitting up, her back pressed against the metal, her eyes opening every time moved. She ate the food he gave her but always watched him carefully while she ate. She answered his questions with short words and asked few questions of her own. On the second day, she moved a little closer. She sat on the edge of the bed instead of on the floor. She started to ask more questions about humans, about Earth, about life. Her eyes still followed his every movement, but the fear in them was slowly fading. On the third day, she told him about her people. "They come from a gentle world," she said. "Our planet has no dangerous animals, no terrible storms, no extreme temperatures. We evolved to think and create, not to fight and survive. We are scientists, artists, diplomats. We are not warriors." "That sounds nice," said, "peaceful." It was peaceful, agreed, until we met other species, until we learned that the galaxy is not as gentle as our world. We learned that there are predators among the stars, species that hunt and kill and conquer, species like. She stopped and looked away. "Species like humans," finished for her. Nodded slowly. "We have never met humans before, only heard stories. The stories say that humans conquered their death world, then reached out to conquer the stars. They say humans are impossible to kill, impossible to stop. They say a single human can defeat 100 warriors." Laughed softly and this time did not flinch at the sound. "I'm not a warrior. I'm just a man who watches the weather. I've never fought anyone in my life." "But you could," said. "If you wanted to, if you needed to, you have the strength. You have the body of a predator. Those arms that carried me through the storm could break me in half without trying." Looked at his arms. They were normal human arms, not particularly strong or muscular. But he knew that, too, they must look like weapons. Her own arms were thin and delicate, like the branches of a young tree. "I would never hurt you," he said simply. Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been in her eyes since the first night. "Why? Why would a predator protect prey?" "You're not prey," said firmly. "You're a person, a thinking, feeling being with hopes and dreams and fears. Humans don't see other species as prey or food. We see them as friends we haven't met yet." "Friends," repeated the word like she had never heard it before. "Humans bond with everything," explained. "It's how we are. We bond with other humans, with animals, with plants. We even bond with machines sometimes. When we meet a new creature, our first thought is not, 'How can I use this?' but, 'How can I connect with this?' It's what makes us human." Thought about this for a long time. Outside, the wind was howling again and snow was hitting the walls. Inside, the heating unit hummed quietly, keeping them warm. "Tell me about her," said suddenly. "The one you lost." Felt his chest tighten. He had not talked about in a long time, not to anyone, but something about's dark eyes made him want to share. "Her name was," he said. "We met when we were young at a school for scientists. She was the person I ever knew, kind too. So kind that she would cry when she saw a hurt animal. She laughed at all my bad jokes. She made me feel like I was the most important person in the universe." "What happened to her?" "An accident, a stupid accident. A transport ship crashed on Earth. She was helping with the rescue when a building fell." His voice grew rough. "She died saving other people. That was who she was, always helping others even when it was dangerous." Was very quiet. Then she said something that surprised him. "She sounds like you." Looked up what? "You walked through a storm that could have killed you to save a stranger. You carried me for an hour through the worst cold I have ever felt. You risked everything to help someone you had never met." His voice was soft. "That is what you did. You are the same." Felt tears forming in his eyes. He tried to blink them away, but they fell down his cheeks. He had not cried in front of anyone since funeral. "I'm sorry," he said, wiping his face. "I'm sorry, this is not. Humans don't usually." "Cry?" asked. "The stories say humans do not cry. They say humans feel no emotion." "The stories are wrong about a lot of things." That night's fever came back. Her body grew hot and then cold. She shook so hard the bed rattled against the wall. Gave her medicine, but it was made for humans and did little for her body. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't have anything else. I don't know how to help you." His teeth were chattering. Her blue skin had turned pale gray. "Cold," she whispered. "So cold." Did the only thing he could think of. He climbed onto the bed beside her and wrapped his arms around her. His body was much warmer than hers, like all human bodies were. He pressed her against his chest and tried to share his heat. Made a small scared sound when he first touched her, but then she felt his warmth and stopped fighting. She pressed closer to him, seeking the heat that came from his body. "Don't be scared," whispered. "I've got you, you're going to be okay." He held her all through the night. He did not sleep. He stayed awake and watched her breathing, felt her heartbeat against his chest, adjusted the blankets when she moved. He whispered to her when she had bad dreams, soft words in his own language that she could not understand but seemed to calm her anyway. When morning came, her fever had broken. She opened her eyes and found herself in the arms of the predator she had been so afraid of. But she did not scream this time. She did not try to run away. "You stayed awake all night," she said softly. "I was worried about you. You held me, you shared your warmth with me. You needed it." Looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised them both. She pressed her forehead against his shoulder, a gesture of trust among her people. She said, "I think I understand now. Humans are not monsters. You are protectors. You come from a world that tried to kill you and you survived. But instead of becoming cruel, you became kind. Instead of learning to destroy, you learned to save." Held her a little. "We try," he said. "We don't always succeed, but we try." The storm finally stopped that afternoon. The sky cleared and the stars came out for the first time in days. Computer made a beeping sound. A message had come through. "What is it?" asked. Read the message twice before answering. "A ship. They received your escape pod's signal. They're coming to rescue you." Should have been happy. She should have been excited to see her own people again. But instead, she looked at with something sad in her eyes. "I see," she said quietly. Understood what she did not say. The rescue was coming. She would leave. And he would be alone again, just like he had wanted, just like he had chosen. But somehow, that thought did not bring him the comfort it once had. The rescue ship landed 2 days later. Watched it come down from the sky through his small window. It was a beautiful ship, smooth and silver, shaped like a leaf falling from a tree. Nothing like the heavy metal boxes that humans used to travel through space. Stood beside him, watching her people arrive. She had recovered from her fever and her injuries were healing well. She was strong enough to walk, strong enough to leave. But she did not seem eager to go. "They will be afraid of you," she said quietly. "My people, when they see you, they will be very afraid." "I know," said. "I'll stay inside. You can go meet them alone." Shook her head. "No, I want them to meet you. I want them to see what I have seen. A human who saved a predator who protected prey." "I told you you're not prey." Smiled. It was the first time had seen her smile and it made her whole face change. She looked younger, lighter, less afraid. "I know that now, but they don't." The ship landed about 100 meters from the hut. A door opened in the side and 5 came out. They were dressed in uniforms that looked formal and military. The one in front was taller than the others, with dark blue skin and silver marks on his forehead. He was clearly the leader. Walked out to meet them, stayed in the doorway of his hut watching. He could not hear what they were saying, but he could see their faces. They looked happy to see. They reached out to touch her arms, her face, checking that she was real and alive. The leader spoke to her quickly, asking questions. Then pointed at the hut she pointed at. Everything changed in an instant. The soldiers pulled out weapons. They aimed at, their faces twisted with fear and anger. The leader shouted orders. 2 soldiers ran toward, trying to pull her away from the hut, trying to get her to safety. Raised his hand slowly. "I'm not armed," he called out. "I'm not dangerous. Please put down your weapons." The leader walked toward him. His weapon was pointed at his chest. His hand was shaking, but his voice was hard and cold. "Human, you will step away from the female. You will get on your knees. You will put your hands behind your head." "He saved my life," shouted. She was struggling against the soldiers who held her. "Let me go, he saved me. He's not a threat." "He is human," the leader said. "All humans are a threat." Slowly got down on his knees. He put his hands behind his head. He made himself as small and harmless as he could. "My name is, I'm a weather researcher. I found in the storm and brought her to my hut. I treated her injuries. I kept her warm, that's all. I never hurt her." The leader's name was. He was the commander of the rescue ship. He walked around in a slow circle, looking at him like he was examining a dangerous animal. "You expect me to believe that a human showed mercy to asked. Your species is classified as extreme threat in every galactic database. Your people have killed millions across a dozen worlds. You are predators, monsters." "We are also doctors and teachers and artists," said calmly. "We are farmers and scientists and parents. We are not just one thing. No species is just one thing." "Lies," said, "human lies." Finally broke free from the soldiers. She ran across the snow and stood between and. Her body was shaking, but her voice was strong. "Commander, I order you to lower your weapon." Stared at her. "You cannot order me. You are not military. You are a diplomat." "I am a senior diplomat of the Third Circle, and my word carries the weight of the council. Lower your weapon, now." The other looked at each other. They knew the law. A senior diplomat could give orders in situations involving contact with other species. Slowly, reluctantly, lowered his weapon. The other soldiers did the same. "Thank you," said. She turned to face all of them. "Now listen to me, all of you. Everything you think you know about humans is wrong." She told them the story. She told them about the crash, about the storm, about walking through impossible cold to save a stranger. She told them about the fever, about the long nights, about the warmth of human arms holding her while she shook. She told them about a human woman who died saving others. "This human had every reason to let me die," said. "He did not know me. He owed me nothing. My people have never done anything for his people, but he risked his life anyway. He gave me his food, his bed, his medicine. He held me through the night when I was sick. He asked for nothing in return." His face was hard. One human does not change what we know about the species. "Then let me show you something." Walked into the hut. A moment later she came back out holding something small. It was a photograph, old and worn, protected by a clear case. She handed it to. "That is," she said, "'s mate. She died 2 years ago saving strangers from a crashed ship. This human has been alone on this frozen world since then, mourning her. Look at his face when he talks about her. Look at his eyes. Does that look like a monster to you?" Looked at the photograph. He looked at who was still on his knees in the snow. Something in his face changed just a little. "He carries this with him everywhere," continued. "He looks at it every night before he sleeps. His hands shake when he talks about her, even now, 2 years later. Do monsters love like that? Do predators grieve for their mates? Do killing machines carry photographs of the dead?" The other soldiers were looking at each other. The fear in their eyes was slowly being replaced by confusion, by doubt. Spoke softly. I didn't want her to be alone in the cold, that's all. No one should die alone. No one should suffer alone. If one of you had crashed in that storm, I would have done the same thing. I don't care what species you are. Life is precious, all life. Was quiet for a long time. The wind was picking up again, carrying snow across the ground. The stars were starting to appear in the darkening sky. Finally, put away his weapon completely. Human, he said, would your kind truly do this? Would your species protect strangers, even aliens who fear and hate you? Slowly stood up. His knees were cold and wet from the snow. He looked at directly, human eyes meeting eyes. Yes, he said, not all of us. We are not perfect. Some of us are cruel, just like some members of every species are cruel. But most of us would do what I did. Most of us would try to help. It's who we are. It's what makes us human. Looked at. He looked at the small hut that had been a shelter from the storm, a place where fear had slowly turned into trust. I think, said slowly, that we have much to learn about humans. Smiled, and this time she was not the only one. 1 year had passed since the storm. Stood outside his hut and watched the sky. The weather was calm today, just light snow falling gently on the frozen ground. His instruments were recording data like they always did, sending information back to the colony. Everything was the same as it had been before. And yet everything was different. His computer beeped. A message had arrived. He walked inside and read it. The message was from. She had been writing to him regularly for the past year, telling him about her life, her work, the changes happening across the galaxy. The Council has approved the Human Understanding Initiative, her message said. Your story has spread to dozens of worlds. Species that once feared humans are now asking questions instead of running away. Diplomats are requesting human advisors. Scientists want to study human pack bonding behavior. Everything is changing. Everything is changing because of you. Smiled as he read the message. It felt strange to think that his simple act of kindness had caused such big waves across the galaxy. He had only done what felt right. He had only helped someone who needed help. The message continued. I am coming to see you. My ship arrives tomorrow. There is something I need to ask you in person. Read those words several times. He felt something he had not felt in a long time. Excitement, happiness, hope. The next day, ship appeared in the sky. It was a different ship than the rescue vessel, smaller and more personal. A diplomatic shuttle. It landed in the same spot where ship had landed 1 year ago. Walked out of the ship alone. She looked different than before, stronger, more confident. She wore the formal robes of a senior ambassador with silver symbols on her shoulders that showed her high rank. But when she saw, her face broke into the same smile he remembered. Hello, human, she said. Hello, alien, he replied. They stood in the snow and looked at each other. So much had changed since their first meeting. Back then, she had been terrified of him. She had pressed herself against the wall and begged him not to eat her. Now she walked toward him without fear and embraced him like an old friend. You look well, said. Have you been eating enough, sleeping enough? I'm fine, you look different, important. Laughed. I am important now. The Council has made me the lead ambassador for human relations. I spend my days traveling between worlds, telling people about the human who saved my life. I show them your photograph of. I tell them about the tears you cried when you spoke of her. Slowly, carefully, I am changing their minds. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it is good work, important work. Because of what you did, humans and might become allies. Think about that. 2 species that feared each other, now talking about friendship and cooperation. All because you walked through a storm to save a stranger. They went inside the hut. It was exactly the same as it had been a year ago. The same bed where had slept. The same chair where had sat watching over her. The same heating unit humming in the corner. looked around the small space. "You could leave this place," she said. "You have been offered many positions, ambassador, advisor, teacher. The galaxy wants to learn from you. Why do you stay here alone?" Was quiet for a moment. He walked to his small shelf and picked up the photograph of. Her face smiled at him from behind the glass, frozen forever in a moment of happiness. "I came here to be alone with my grief," he said. "I thought if I stayed here long enough, the pain would fade. I thought the loneliness would feel like peace instead of emptiness." "And does it?" "No," set down the photograph. "The pain is still there. It will always be there. But I have learned something this year. Grief does not heal by hiding from the world. It heals by connecting with others, by caring for others, by letting new people into your heart." Moved closer to him. "Is that why you saved me? Because you needed to care for someone?" "Maybe, I don't know. I just knew that you were hurt and cold and scared, and I could not walk away. Would never have walked away. She would have helped you without thinking twice." She sounds like she was a wonderful person. She was the best person I ever knew. Took a deep breath. But she would not want me to spend my life alone. She would want me to live, to work, to help others, to be the person she always believed I could be. Smiled. "Then I have a question for you. The Council is building a new diplomatic vessel, the first ship designed to bring humans and together as a crew. They have asked me to lead this mission, and I have asked if I can bring a human advisor with me." Looked at her. "An advisor? Someone who can help us understand humans, someone who can show my people that humans are not monsters, someone who has already proven that connection is possible between our species." Held out her hand, a gesture she had learned from human culture. "Will you come with me? Will you help me build a bridge between our worlds?" Looked at her hand. He looked at the photograph of. He looked around the small hut that had been his prison and his shelter for so long. "Yes," he said. He took her hand. "Yes, I will." 3 weeks later, stood on the deck of the new diplomatic vessel. The ship was named the Bridge because that was what it was meant to be. A connection between two peoples, a path from fear to understanding. The crew was a mixture of humans, and at first the crew members had been nervous around the humans. They had walked carefully around them, flinched at sudden movements, avoided eye contact. But slowly, day by day, things were changing. The humans told jokes and they learned to laugh. They shared their music and the humans learned to appreciate its strange beauty. Bonds were forming. Friendships were growing. Stood beside at the large window. They watched the stars passing by, millions of lights in the endless darkness. "Are you afraid?" asked. "There are many species out there who still see humans as monsters, many worlds where your people are not welcome." Thought about the question. He thought about the long night when he had held while she shook with fever. He thought about who had died saving strangers. He thought about all the connections that were possible when people chose kindness over fear. "No," he said, "I'm not afraid." "Why not?" Smiled. "Because I'm human. We don't fear the dark, we light fires in it." Looked at him with something like wonder in her eyes. "I used to think humans were the monsters of the galaxy. Now I think you might be its hope." The ship flew on through the stars. Behind them was a frozen planet where fear had once lived. Ahead of them was a galaxy full of possibilities, full of species waiting to learn what had learned in that small hut during a terrible storm. That humans were not monsters. They were survivors who had learned that caring for others was the best way to survive. They were predators who had chosen to protect instead of destroy. They were creatures from a death world who had decided that life, all life, was precious. And as the bridge carried its crew toward new worlds and new meetings, knew that would be proud. She would be proud that her death had not made him hide from the world. She would be proud that her love had taught him to keep loving, even when it was hard, even when it hurt. Because that was the human way. That was the fire that burned in the darkness. And it would never go out.